So welcome to the first session of mixing a tune called Took Too Long by Lenny Classix. I'm Nate Pat Warden. I am mixing the session and I'm breaking things into different parts. So the first step here is to do something called gain staging. Lenny had sent me this project yesterday and had a bunch of tracks as you would expect, and everything was set to Unity. And what would happen on this stereo out or the main bus or whatever you want to call it is that all these tracks were playing as loud as possible and it sounded terrible. So gain staging has two specific aspects. One, you want to set the levels for the entire project without panning, without effects, and you want to make sure that the loudness of the project, both in DBFS and in something called LUFS, which I'll get into in a second, are within the realm of doing a mix and then giving you some headroom for when a track gets mastered. So what we've done, what I've pre-done, so you don't have to listen to excessive loudness of everything being at Unity, is I figured out a sweet spot for all the tracks. I did a shift click and I did a reset channel strip for all these, and then I dragged all the faders down to negative 20.5. Now, what I found is that when you are doing anything with a mix, as I mentioned, consistency is super important, but following LUFS is doubly important, because if you want to put your music on like a SoundCloud, or you want to put it on YouTube, or you want to put it on some other cloud-based audio service, what you're going to want to have happen is that when it's mastered, they're going to dither it down to negative 14 anyway, so you don't want the music to be, pardon me, you don't want the music to be too hot. So here we want to really go with the book standard for rock and pop and hip hop, which is around negative 18 LUFS. And to get there, we're going to use the loudness plugin that comes standard with Logic Pro 10. You can see another one here that I'll get into. That's the WLM Plus from Waves, but the one from Logic Pro 10 can take you pretty far. So when you start this first time, you'll see a start and reset button. What you're going to do is you're going to click start, and then I'm going to set this threshold here where it'll start reporting yellow. If we go above that threshold, I'm going to set it to negative 18 because, as I mentioned, that's our standard. So let's give it a quick listen for like a minute and see where we are with the level of negative 20.5 for each of the tracks. So as you can tell on that stereo out, we were hitting a peak of like negative 3.2, which is okay. We could even make things a little bit lower. But you're also seeing that we were staying somewhere between 18 and 20 on, or negative 18, negative 20 as far as LUFS goes. I think that's okay. Let's listen to it one more time. Let's bring the level up just a little bit and see where we land with this. And again, negative 18 is our goal. Negative 19, there's really nothing wrong with that. All right, I like negative 20.5 better, so let's just keep that. So that's pretty much the end of the first session. There's one other thing I wanted to point out. It's that for each of these tracks, I used the gain plugin, which you can find under Logic, and I believe it's under metering. Or something. It's utility. There it is. Okay. The gain gives you the ability to do phase inversion, and what that allows you to do for every single channel, because you would put it into each channel, is make sure you don't have phase issues. This is particularly an issue if you're dealing with things like multi-track drums, but since you're using sampled drums, you don't have that multi-mic issue that is introduced frequently in rock and pop music. And so while I went through everything ahead of time, I didn't find any phase issues. So gain staging has those two aspects to it. So it's levels and it's phase to make sure that you're not going to try to mix garbage, because that's counterproductive. So that's the end of the first session. The next session is going to cover levels, setting levels for all the tracks and getting bussing going. And then we'll start working on effects in session 3.